Hello everyone, Marcus here, and today we're going to be doing an impressions video on Sword Art Online 2, Episode 14, One Little Step. For my overall impressions, I'd say this episode was actually pretty good, surprisingly. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more dull, considering the fact that we're basically at the end of the Gun Gale Online arc, since most of what's had to happen has happened. All of the plot threads have basically been resolved, except for one little thing that they're kind of leaving for the future, although I highly doubt we're going to get into that unless they go really far into the Mother's Rosario and afterwards arcs, although I'm really wondering whether or not they'll be able to make it considering the amount of episodes they have. Then again, they could just cut a lot of material out, such as what they did with the Fairies Dance arc in Sword Art Online Season 1. But alas, I was surprised by what they managed to fit in. They successfully basically recapped the whole murder scenario, which we more or less have figured out, but they just tie everything together and clarify everything for us. They also take the time to solve that situation with Kyoji from last week's episode. And finally, they managed to get a bit more character development in for Shinon in order to show that she has grown as a result of her experience with Gun Gale Online. Well guys, this is where I would usually say time for the spoilers, but I'm actually going to take a slightly different approach this week. Rather than directly telling you exactly what happened, recapping the whole episode, I find that that takes a lot of time, and for the most part, it'd be better if you just go and watch the episode yourselves, rather than have me explain to you what happens, since it's just basically ruining the fun in certain aspects. So instead, I'm just going to tell you the overall plot synopsis of what happened in this episode, so just the basic scenes, as well as a bit of coverage of some of my thoughts on the different occurrences that happened within those scenes. Got that? Well then let's get this part started. We begin the episode with the same situation that we were in last week, whereby Kyoji has that whole rapey face thing going on, and Kirito appears in order to save the day. So the beginning of the episode more or less is trying to resolve this situation. Kyoji gets defeated, and Kirito successfully managed to save her, although there are a few things that... Kyoji gets defeated, but mainly by the intervention of Shinon and Kirito working together in conjunction when she hits him with a radio, which I kind of found interesting because I almost never see those radios around nowadays, and I find it incredible that they're still around even in 2022. I mean, come on, iPods have been around for a while now, and headphones are plenty good. And Shino's not exactly the most social person, so who is she going to be sharing that music with? But, anyhow, she managed to successfully use that weapon to, honestly, really hard injure him. I'm surprised he didn't get a concussion from that, or something worse. Well, he was knocked out sufficiently enough that, for some reason, Kirito and Shinon were perfectly comfortable just relaxedly speaking to each other on the floor while a homicidal maniac is still in the room. You would think they might have found a better place to have that little debriefing. Two other things from the scene that really kind of stuck in my mind. The first one is Kyoji's Rap Face is just plain old horrible. I mean, good God, that thing was creepy as heck. I was creeped out last week, and I was creeped out this week, so even though his character personally isn't all that interesting to me, that face is going to be sticking with me for a while. In my nightmares. Here's the other bit that kind of annoyed me. Guys, Kirito at one point gets hit with the syringe that we saw last week, and yet doesn't die. Why? Because there was coincidentally an EKG patch still stuck onto his skin, which I find bizarre considering that one, modern EKG's patches tend to be more gel-based rather than something mechanically attached, so I find it surprising that that thing got stuck on, and two, could they have at least had the decency to have a few more laying about instead of having the one EKG coincidental patch just right there? I mean, come on, guys. We've had plenty of contrivances with the show, but this time the annoying thing is they don't feel necessary. Reiki Kawahara-sensei, what were you thinking? I mean, by Sanctuary, it's one thing to have it contrived without just because you can't think of something. But come on, they weren't necessary. The syringe could have just missed. What can I say? It just bothers me. So the next scene consists of Shinon confronting the bullies that we initially saw in the earlier episodes. I think it's around 3. Basically terrorizing her. She shows some signs of getting better in this scene thanks to the fact that she managed to, well, hold it out. Initially, she seemed as though she was going to crack, but all of a sudden, when the assailants don't really show that they know anything about guns, considering they didn't realize the thing had a safety, and one, it's a BB, really. But effectively, she just goes, oh, you kind of have to turn off the safety. And like she just takes it out of her hand painfully. It's like, oh, you got to turn off the safety. And then she just double checks it, kind of almost look. I don't even know about the clip part, but it almost would have been fitting if she just double checked the clip and something. And then she just shoots the can real quick. It's like, that's kind of showing him like a boss, you know. Even though she kind of melted down a bit afterwards when she ran off, but baby steps. I mean, the title of the episode is One Little Step. Another subsequent scene is Shinon getting picked up from school, which, guys, if we didn't know Kirito was a player before, yeah, they managed to confirm it by making him just be outside of Shinon's school, and that alone is sufficient to gather a small crowd of girls observing him and asking Shinon curiously whether or not he is her boyfriend, which... For one, I'm actually kind of curious, did they talk to him at all, considering the fact that, why would they assume it's Shinon who knows this person? But, anyhow, there's that, so, yep. Appears that Playermeister Kirito is one IRL and in VR. Go figure. Then we come up on the next scene. Basically, it's a recap of how the murders occurred, explaining Kyoji's relationship to his brother and a bunch of other little details that help to smooth out the whole murder situation. Here's the thing, though. This is something I want to get into a little bit more in the future, and I'm probably going to get into it more. But effectively, they start to discuss this dark side of virtual reality in some aspects, such as the fact that people can get obsessive with certain aspects of it, and the fact that you are very vulnerable when you are in VR. Here's the last little bit I want to note here from this section, guys. At one point, Fukuoka provides Kirito the option of reading a letter from Red-Eyed Zaza. And the letter is rather ominous in nature. He says that it's not over yet, that you haven't run away and you can't escape it. And he mentions something interesting at the end. It's showtime. They mentioned before that that is not Red-Eye Zaza's own personal quote that he uses. That is a borrowed quote from Pooh, or Po, or however you want to pronounce it, who is the leader of Laughing Coffin. So that effectively, you have to ask yourselves the question. I'm not going to drop the complete spoiler here, but definitely think, do you think it's completely over if that guy is still out on the loose? That's as far as I'll go with that hint. So definitely keep it in mind, since apparently Laughing Coffin is one of the main villains for this series. And finally, we come upon the last section, whereby we basically have a meetup over at the Dicey Cafe between Shinon, Kirito, Asana, and Elizabeth. I didn't see anybody else there. I don't think I saw Agile in the scene. I don't quite recall him, but they did manage to get drinks, and it is his cafe. It could have been his wife that provided them. But effectively, it's those 4 that I mentioned that are the main people in the scene. So there's a quite funny moment, personally. There's at one stage, Kirito's introducing Asuna and Elizabeth, and Elizabeth runs up and tries to smack Kirito for the description he does, but he dodges, and she just flat out trips up and falls flat on her face, and it is hilarious. I was just laughing out loud right there. It's like, are you for real? She just tripped up that badly. And then there was Kirito's description of Asuna, whereby I was just sitting there thinking, do you guys actually introduce yourselves as a married couple, considering the fact that you were technically married and sort of online? I mean, I guess it would be awkward to do IRL since they're not supposed to be using their real names either, apparently, even though plenty of people in real life use their online names with their friends. But anyhow, he didn't introduce her as anything towards him, so I'm almost kind of curious. Are they just leaving that open for the show, or did I miss something in the light novels? But, dude, shouldn't you be clarifying things a bit better, considering the fact that when he came in with Shinon, both of the girls got jealous? I don't know. Let's just leave it up to Playermeister Kirito to decide how he's going to handle things. In this scene, aside from the introductions, they also have Shinon deal with her baggage by effectively bringing in that clerk that was in the scene that we see in the flashback. She was in the post office, and effectively that clerk was apparently pregnant, and she's calling Shinon saying, thank you very much, you saved my life, I'm sorry for not coming earlier, and all that. It's supposed to be heartwarming, but it didn't get me. I don't know why. So, yeah, I don't really know what to say in that aspect. I was just kind of, okay, I guess it works. And that's more or less where they leave off the episode. The final interesting note I have is that apparently there's going to be another episode. For a second there, I actually thought that they might be ending off the season right here and just plain old cutting off from GGO's story and leaving the Caliber arc and the Mother's Rosario arcs as something else. But the end of the episode, I believe, had the title Debriefing, which kind of makes me curious because I didn't really read into the Caliber arc all that much. I wasn't all that interested in it. But effectively, that gives an implications that either A, there's something in the Caliber arc involving a debriefing, maybe a quest, effectively, or B, I must be missing something in from Mother's Rosario, since I don't really know anything from the Mother's Rosario scene that could really require a complete debriefing. So, yeah, I guess I'm kind of curious as to what exactly Sword Art Online is going to be doing next week. Well then, everyone, that just about does it for my impressions of Sword Art Online episode 14 of season 2. Do remember to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe if you like the video. And also note that I'm going to be changing up the format for a lot of things in the coming weeks. I'm going to be doing some changes to the very way I do these videos now that the Gun Gale arc has ended, and I'm also going to be experimenting a lot more with screen capture and a lot of other such things. I'm going to be getting some new equipment pretty soon, hopefully. So, yeah, everybody, do keep an eye out for that, and I hope that the changes aren't going to be too jarring. Well, everyone, thank you very much for watching this video. This has been Marcus Dahl, logging out.